We have a very special guest, and joining us now is the managing editor of the SB Nation Suns blog, Bright Side of the Sun. Dave King joins us now to talk about the Suns winning the draft lottery this past week. So, Dave, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
So, we the debate so far has been Ayton or Doncic with this pick. You've already come out and been very strong saying that you think that the pick should be DeAndre Ayton. Ayton, of course, you got to see a lot playing over locally at Arizona. What makes Ayton, you feel, a great fit for the Suns, and why, as you said, he has to be the number one pick in this draft?
All right, well, I just see him as like a generational talent. Now, when I say that, I don't mean the only best of his generation. I just mean one of the best. Physically, skill-wise, fluidity. The guy does not commit dumb fouls. He does not. He rebounds great. He doesn't block a ton of shots, but he does have a good vertical leap. He has really good touch with both hands around the rim. He's got a developing jumper that he was actually able to hit in tournament play. He's got a three-point shot he was able to hit in tournament play. And I know this is kind of weird, and this is my thing, but it really drives me crazy when big men cannot make their free throws because they're going to get fouled. A guy like him is going to get fouled like crazy. Mm-hmm. And especially guys are going to just drape all over him to get him to not get a three-point play. This guy made every free throw in the Pac-12 tournament anyway that I saw. And for his first season as a 19-year-old freshman, I think he was over 80%. He might have been 85% from the line. That's really great because now you can't just foul him and hope to get only 1 point out of a possession where he gets the ball down deep. The guy does not shy from contact. He'll rebound in traffic. He'll tip the ball to himself in traffic to be able to secure the rebound if there's other hands right there. He's got that much body control. So I really like the kid. I mean, really, I was frustrated along with a lot of U of A fans that Ayton is not aggressively dominant. Like, he doesn't demand the ball all the time, and he doesn't slam dunk with emphasis and mean mug in people's faces and things like that. He's not going to be an Amari Stoudemire for sure. And for Suns fans, I mean, that's the epitome of the dunking big man. But Ayton's going to be the best pure center the Suns have ever had as a franchise. I mean, Alvin Adams is incredible, and he's still actually part of the organization. Love that guy. He's a very, very nice guy. But that's the best center the Suns have ever had, and he retired in the 80s. So, and he was only 6'9". So I just can't wait. I think Ayton has to be the choice. He is going to be better than almost any player in the league. Within a couple of years, he'll be a top 20 player. You don't take a flyer and hope Doncic becomes an awesome player. You just know Ayton's going to be.
Right. Now, what's interesting about Ayton is that we've seen in the modern NBA centers, and if you're a pro Doncic guy, like many people are, they've argued that in the modern NBA, centers aren't nearly as valuable. Is that a concern for you if you're Phoenix?
Oh, of course. Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. He could get himself if he doesn't really slide his feet well. He can become unplayable against certain teams for long stretches. But at the very worst. At the very worst, he's like a Clint Capella. Right. Clint Capella in some rounds is going to be great in the playoffs. He actually has better numbers than he did in the regular season as a double-double guy with zero offensive game outside of finishing lobs at the rim. But he has good touch around the rim, so he's able to finish. And that's kind of what you're going to get with Ayton, except a lot more. And Capella sometimes had to be sad against Golden State, but he still played. He still played pretty well. He's very athletic. So is Ayton, very athletic. And when I saw him focus, the guy's only 19. He was a freshman. But when I saw him focus, he was able to slide his feet and cut off drives on the pick and roll and switches and things like that in limited opportunities at U of A.
Now, last week we talked about Phoenix hiring Igor Kokoskov, from Utah. And well, one, I want to hear what you have to say about that hire in general. And two, how do you feel about the idea of Phoenix possibly taking Luka Dončić, who he coached obviously with the Slovenian national team. And what are your impressions of Igor in general?
Sure. So I went to Igor's intro press conference the other morning, on Monday morning. He is very well spoken. He says all the right things that you'd want a rookie head coach to say. I think he's going to be very successful. I think he's got a really good, innovative mind, and he's been raised. I mean, he's got 18 years as an NBA assistant and 10 years as a national team coach, head coach. So he's got a lot of experience, more so than any Suns coach that has come in here. The Suns, as a franchise for 50 years, have promoted from within almost all the time, and promoted from assistant ranks, even if they bring guys from other teams. And Igor has more experience than most anybody since Cotton Fitzsimmons. So if you're looking for that, his ability to coach a team, he's got it. He also is he's very creative offensively, and he's been coach for most of his career with teams like the Detroit Pistons and the Utah Jazz, who are very defense oriented. So he knows, and he's actually watched one of his little coaching videos. We didn't get a chance to talk about it on Monday, but he does say that you can't have just a defensive coordinator and an offensive coordinator on your coaching staff. Every coach has to know the value of defense to create offense. Coaches always say that. Players always say that. But he just sounded like he knew what he was talking about. So we'll see.
That sounds very much like Brad Stevens,
yeah,
who is a strong offensive coach, but his values come from the defensive side of the ball, and that's why.
Well, and they're clearly showing it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They're clearly showing, and also Quentin Snyder as well. Quinn Snyder maybe less so on the offensive side and more so on the discipline and defense side. But definitely Igor has been exposed to all that. Whether he can coach it or not and hire the right coaching staff does obviously remain to be seen. But I think he's got a better chance to be long-term successful than any of the Suns coaches since D'Antoni. And D'Antoni was kind of they got lucky with him. He came in as an assistant for half a year when the head coach got fired in 03-04, and they just promoted him because that's what these guys do. Colangelo before Sarver just promote from within, and it just happened to work.
Now, we've talked a lot about Luka Dončić on this show and on our YouTube channel. Doncic is very connected to Kokoškov because of the Slovenian national team connection. Are there areas of Doncic's game that you think would fit in a Kokoškov system with the Suns players that have in place right now with Josh Jackson and Devin Booker?
Oh, absolutely. If anybody, you can definitely make the case, and I don't think too many people would argue that if any coach in the NBA is going to get the most out of Luka Dončić, Igor Kokoškov has proven that he can get a ton out of this kid. Now, of course, there's going to be other coaches who will get a lot out of Dončić as well because he's just a really, really good player. There are questions as to whether he can hold up defensively in the NBA, whether he's going to grow out of. He's only 18 years old and he's already 225 pounds at 6'8". There's questions if he'll. I personally have questions if he'll grow out of his wing, body. But then you've got a Ben Simmons who's at 240 who can play point guard full time too. So I don't know. I really don't know if Doncic can be a point guard in the NBA. Great on the Suns team because he's not going to play a two guard. You got Devin Booker already, and you don't want to give up on Josh Jackson so quick. The guy who fits best with the Suns' current young guys is DeAndre Ayton. But if you draft a Doncic and he's really good, you figure out how to make that work, and you trade a Jackson for a player at another position who's really good. I personally think you're going to need a ball handler in the lineup along with Doncic and Booker, which forces them to have basically a three-guard lineup. If that third guard is like a Sean Livingston or a Pat Beverly or someone like that, that's awesome. That would be great, and you could really, really excel with that.
Now, my last question for you is, when you look at this Suns roster and the Suns draft capital, they have not only one, but they have 16 and 31. With those other two picks, what are some opportunities for them to improve this roster? Could they trade up and possibly nab, say, a Colin Sexton or a Trae Young if they draft DeAndre Ayton? Do you feel like there are other areas of need on this Suns roster?
So absolutely. If the Suns were starting a rebuild or only a year or two into the rebuild, I would absolutely say draft at 16 and 31 or trade up to, get the point guard in the low teens, or the 10 or 11 range. You're not going to get into the top 10 in this draft. Teams aren't. Remember when the Celtics tried to trade 6 picks just to get to number 9?
Yep.
And
I'm a huge
Charlotte,
Celtics fan.
Kendall's a huge Celtics fan, so he's very familiar with the Celtics wheels and deals.
You're kind of lucky because I think he wanted Kaminsky, right?
Justice Winslow, which just as bad.
Oh, he wanted Justice Winslow. Well, either way, you're kind of lucky he stayed where he was and didn't get 6 picks. Because that was obviously, no matter who you took at 9, unless it was Devin Booker that year, or whoever he was targeting that year wasn't Booker or Lyles or anything like that. So, that's, that happens. But anyway, you're not going to get into the top 10 in this draft, I don't think, unless you're already in the top 10 and you're only moving up a spot or 2. So you could trade up with 16. But I guess what I was getting at is you can have too much youth. The Suns already have too much youth. Yeah. So unless they're going to trade the other youth they have and go with this year's 2 or 3 draft picks, great. But McDonough has already said, Ryan McDonough, the GM, has already said he's not going to do that. He's not going to. He might come in with 2 rookies. He might trade up and all that, but he really wants the team to get older after that number 1 pick. He wants the guys to have actual veterans who are playable veterans, not every day, 30 minutes a game every single night. And one of your leading scorers, playable veterans. That's what he wants, and he's not just gonna bring in 2 or 3 more young guys.
We'll give you Terry Rozier for that number 1 pick since you guys want. Since you guys want a playable leader.
We'll take Terry Rozier for 16. Come on, man.
My last question for you, Dave, is you talked about Ryan McDonough. I think that he's an interesting character in all of this.
By the way, I'm jealous of you guys. Can I just say that really quick? I'm so jealous.
I think the whole league.
That trade of freaking, getting all those draft picks for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett for 1 year for the Nets. Geez, you guys got your 2 best players. After all those injuries, your 2 best players were your free picks. Those are awesome.
Oh yeah, no, I love it.
I think the whole league is jealous of the Celtics.
Ryan McDonough is a Boston guy,
and Ryan McDonough is Boston. That does get me to my last question.
4th these last 2 years, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because McDonough is an interesting character in this because I feel like he's certainly not, no pun intended, considering the Suns is becoming a little bit under fire for the build of this team so far. I think particularly the Chris and Dragan Bender draft seems like it could be an empty one, and this
also Alex Len
exactly.
There was Gary Harris on the board when he took T.J. Warren. I mean, there's a lot of misses, and he got lucky with
the only great move he's had really has been the Devin Booker pick.
So how much pressure?
And nobody was going to not take Devin Booker at 13 that year because Lyles was already off the board. All those guys he wanted was off the board. Booker was all that was left.
So that brings me to my question: how much pressure is on McDonough to get this one right?
Luckily, I am so happy that the Suns have the number 1 pick because now he doesn't have any pressure. You just take Ayton or you take Doncic, and no one's going to question you. Yeah. It's so easy. If he had I actually wrote an article a month or so ago. If the Suns actually drop to 3 or 4, they need to fire McDonough before the draft because he will not make that work.
I tell you what,
he's got Alex Len at number 5.
Yeah.
He's got Josh Jackson, who may or may not end up being a top 10 player from his draft. And those are the better ones. I mean, Bender and Chris were number 4 and number 8. You can't trust him with another 4 pick. So luckily he got the number 1, and he gets to pick the guy he wants, and no one's really going to question him.
It's going to be fascinating to watch the Suns. They're going to be a lot of eyeballs and seeing what they do, not only in this draft, but in this offseason. Dave King, you can catch him at
Dave King NBA on Twitter.
There you go.
And on brightsideofthesun.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Dave. And we're looking forward to talking to you again soon sometime.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this podcast segment, be sure to check out all of our shows on the New Generation Podcast Network on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Stitcher.